We've all seen the movie The Matrix. It was interesting and fun on the big screen of the TV, but has it become a bit too real in your own life? Are you seeing glitches in the Matrix and trying to figure out what's happening? Have you been told that you've been tricked and that you need to fight against what they've done to you? The deception. Whether you're just beginning to notice, or if you've been searching for a more peaceful and congruent way to live without battling them, you're in the right place. I'm Ken, and I'll be joined by Eliza and Rena Stella. Let's explore together on the Liberty Ark. Welcome back. I'm Ken, and I'm here with Eliza and Rena Stella for episode number 8 of Liberty Ark Podcast. Good to see you both.
Happy to be here. Thank you for another day, another episode.
Great to see you both as well. Yes, looking forward to this.
This should be a fun one. We'll get right into the reading. So Eliza's going to read for us, and then we'll kind of talk about this.
Great book. Episode 8, Breaking the Chains of Illusion, the Reality of Legal and Monetary Constructs. The modern world's legal and monetary systems are sophisticated mechanisms of control. These constructs are designed to be nearly invisible, yet they exert a powerful influence over our lives. From birth, individuals are entered into a complex web of contracts and obligations, often without their explicit knowledge or consent. These contracts, embedded in everyday activities such as obtaining a birth certificate, registering for school, or opening a bank account, create a lifelong chain of obligations that bind individuals to the system. The legal framework that supports these contracts is equally complex. It is designed to be impenetrable to the average person, filled with jargon and legalese that obscure its true nature. This complexity serves to disempower individuals, making it difficult for them to understand, let alone challenge, the terms of their bondage.
So there's a lot there. We got a lot to work through tonight. Not a lot of pages, but pretty interesting concepts.
Sure do. And a big part of this is considering the word contract, whether we realize we're contracting or not, but linking it to bondage. In other words, contracts being binding. We always hear of binding contracts, but there's some sort of bondage there.
That's a word we go back to over and over and over as contracts.
And the fact that they are sophisticated, right, mechanisms, they're not easy to understand. And they make it complex for a reason.
I never understood legalese. I always heard the term, I thought that was a slang term thrown around, but then learned that legalese is actually a legal term. It's the language in these contracts that is used, that is quite complex, but it is for the legal world. But it is binding to us if we don't take the time to understand exactly what we're saying. I should say comprehend, not understand. But it is its own language. The fact that these contracts are real. They're real, they are binding, but they're subtle in the fact that we don't realize that it's a contract. And that's what's running in the background. Generally, when contracts are hidden like that, they're not to our advantage. And one of the first things mentioned here was an example given was such as a birth certificate. I'm like, what? I used to be like, what? How is that a contract? Like, for real? That's just supposed to be recording the event of me coming to hang around in the world, right?
Some of these contracts are nearly completely invisible, not because you can't see them if you knew what you were looking for, but you don't suspect them, so you don't recognize them. Yet,
well said.
Yeah,
or you don't feel them,
Yeah, you don't
right?
even
Like,
know they're a contract.
yeah. I mean, a good example is what we're surrounded with on subscriptions, right? We all have subscriptions now, right? We used to be able to have and hold our music, but now we have to subscribe to our music, and it's really not until you actually see it hit your bank account that you remember, right, that you had that to begin with.
Yeah, and
So,
they even get it now to where it happens automatically through your credit card, right? To where you have an obligation, right? That contract has created an obligation to pay that monthly fee, but you don't even recognize it just because it happens automatically. So not only do you not see the contract, you don't feel the obligation because the credit card bill comes and you just pay the balance. And most people can end up getting stuck paying for services that they thought they had gotten rid of months or years ago, but it's still continuing to hit that automatically. That's pretty invisible, huh?
Yeah. And those 100 pages of legalese in the contracts, terms and conditions, do you agree? Privacy statements, do you agree? But when it comes to the birth certificate, that's a legal document. We thought it was recording an event, but it's a contract. And imagine the pages that are behind birth certificates, let alone the credit card or the license. And you've always been excellent in bringing forward the unilateral contracts that are signed by one party, bind pretty much the obligations for performance of one party. But who's the beneficiary? Who's benefiting ultimately from that? Like, what are those? Yeah, we're getting something, but what are all the terms there?
Yeah, when you sign an okay to go through on a subscription or something online, you're getting something from that, and you recognize what you're getting. Right? The other side doesn't sign it. The other side is pretty much in control because they're offering a service that you want. And if you want it, you have to agree to those terms. But the birth certificate, people are just kind of beginning to understand that there's a contractual relationship there, but you're not even aware of it. Right? So not only is the power all on one side, but there's not even an awareness at all. I mean, you were just born. How are you supposed to know about the terms of that service,
Exactly.
and I want to mention that you mentioned, of course, the subscription scenario there and the terms and conditions. The nearly invisible that I find we all fall into is the fact that it is so convenient, right, for us with our busy lives and so forth. I think that convenience they give us when we're entering a subscription, when we're clicking the button to see the terms and conditions that are 100 pages, that convenience, we're just robotically just clicking and going, right? We don't know. We think we are just getting that one subscription that we actually went on to get, but really behind those 100 pages, what else are we being handcuffed to? And on top of that, weeks later, months later, maybe even the day after, you now get an email or an alert, updated terms and conditions. And I think what's happening is that convenience is part of that nearly invisible, right, contract, because who really has the time to read 100 pages every time they alert us that there is an update to their terms and conditions, yet alone the initial visit to get the subscription, our life is busy. And we're either going to have choices of going with the flow, because when you click on that terms and conditions button, you're not able to move forward unless you actually acknowledge it. And usually we are fast paced, we have a busy life, we have a lot of other things to do that we're just running and getting into something that we think we are getting into, but it's really a lot more than just that one thing.
I'm old enough to remember the early stages of the internet. My first recollection was like 1994. And then by the early 2000s, Google was kicking in as the main search engine and so forth. And they were coming up with all this free stuff, all these services that you used to have to pay for. And now Google was going to make them free for everybody. And it sounded so good. It was just free. This internet thing was fabulous because it was all free. And it was a couple, 3 years into that before I recognized what we know now. And that is, if it's free, you're the product, right? They're making money off of your information. And now I think people are a lot more aware of that, but I don't know that they really recognize the depth of it.
I think we were all excited to have free stuff in our hands, right?
Sounded great. It didn't sound like that you were giving anything for it, that it truly was free.
Right. The trade-offs. And you look at our ability to contract in this. It's a legal society. It's a construct, means that it's something that has been created that overlays, say, us as, real, living, breathing, loving men and women. But it all goes back to that birth certificate. And what we're told is, now we realize it's a contract. But when we see these things, we're told it's mandatory. It's mandatory to get a birth certificate. And then it becomes, from there, mandatory, say, government IDs. So many things are then, we're told, are mandatory. So we feel we don't have a choice. We sign, we contract. We don't question, do we have to do this? And who's in control? Are we in control? So this reading is really so complex, honestly, that it starts questioning the web of contracts.
And they usually present it. I mean, they're really bright in how they organize this stuff, right? Because you use the word mandatory, but most people don't think about any of those things as being mandatory. It's, I want to be able to drive a car, therefore I want to get my driver's license, right? Parents, I think, I've never been one, but my thought is that probably in the hospital, they want to get their birth certificate for their kids. I don't think most parents see that as, I have to get a birth certificate. So they've created a situation where they talk you into, or they present it in such a way that you want to do the very thing they're trying to get you to do.
Wait a minute. Are you saying the mom or the dad, the moment that the baby pops out, right?
I don't think that's exactly.
We're signing them up for for a bunch of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. But you don't know.
A bunch of responsibilities.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you're not aware that that's what you're signing, right?
I thought you were going with like the DL, like the mom is excited about you driving. So now she can send you and get the groceries or send you but the moment that the baby, the moment that the baby is coming or is here, we get that registration done. Sure, we want that.
Yeah, you have that experience, so you can share, personal. I don't have that experience, but my assumption is that it's seen as a positive thing by most parents.
And Reina Estela, you just used the word registration, and if we look at what registration means, it means a transfer of ownership. Like when you register your computer, you think, I'll get a warranty. The warranty still holds, but you're actually passing ownership back to the company, legal ownership. So registration of birth, are we getting owned, or something about us or our ability to operate getting owned? That's heavy.
Are we giving away our kids, as we register, right? Is someone is someone going to be owning our kids, right? Is when you start going through this information, you start, a lot of things go in circles in your mind, like crazy things, right? Like, what do you mean that registration means that, right? And it really triggers you.
My sister has done a lot of legislative work and so forth with homeschooling. And one of the biggest things they run into is the state coming in and trying to take people's kids. Might be some relationship there.
And that is scary to think. Ken, you said that you don't have kids, but that is a scary thought for parents, just to have that thought, of your kids easily being taken.
And what gives the right to do that? And is it somehow that something's been registered and ownership has been, some right has been given away? That's a heavy, heavy topic.
It is. And it's interesting. There's always two sides and angles on everything, right? Like we talked earlier about on another episode about the law and the fact that a lot of our rights are taken away through statutes and codes, right? That we as moral people wouldn't be doing anything to harm anybody, but some people would. And the statutes and codes serve to keep those people under control effectively, right? But it ends up controlling everyone, not just the people that wouldn't be acting appropriately. And this is kind of the same way, right? Some parents really do abuse their kids and don't deserve to have the kids, but everybody has to give up ownership of their kids. That's a tough issue to work through. The system has a purpose, but not for everybody.
I don't know. They have a purpose, but is the purpose to our benefit?
Oh, definitely not.
I don't think it ever is for our benefit.
Well, it's not for the moral people's benefit, that's for sure. But just like the law, what would happen if there were no statutes and codes for driving, for example? You and I wouldn't be running around going crazy 100 miles an hour and running over people, but some people would. Some people would abuse their kids. It's a tough issue in my view, and I don't know that I have a resolution for it, but there's an impact on us because of the fact that there's a group of people that don't control themselves. But that means those of us that are being controlled unnecessarily have to recognize that control that's occurring and the freedoms that are being taken from us unnecessarily through these contracts we're talking about.
And those are excellent points. And I've thought about that as well. And then we get into this deeper study of inherent rights. No one has the right to be abusive. No one has the right to, hit someone with the car or cause damage with the car. And those things are generally taken care of in a law form that addresses those things. You don't have the right to do those things, and it protects those who don't abuse the rights. Then we flip into this ownership where we have traded off that law system of rights for these what are called benefits and privileges. And a lot of people have heard that we trade our rights for benefits and privileges. But this trade-off of what we think is us being owned is filled with the statutory benefits and privileges that in so many cases overstep, but we don't realize the overstepping because we've been told we are bound to them.
Yeah, it's become normalized to us. Most of the time, people don't even think about this stuff. They just, the rules are this, and so that's what I do. And the crazy thing is, it's the very people that don't need the rules that say the rules are this, therefore I have to do it. The outlaws just do their thing.
That's a great point.
So,
oh my goodness.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it? From birth, individuals are entered into a complex web of contracts and obligations. Boy, does that sound like life or what?
But that last part of the sentence.
Often without their explicit knowledge or consent. Certainly without their explicit knowledge or consent. Many times quite purposefully hidden. Exactly.
That I didn't mean to interrupt there. Sorry there, Ken. Is that it says explicit knowledge or consent. It doesn't say without your consent. Somehow you have consented. Somehow you've signed. Somehow you've said yes, and you have contracted. It just wasn't. It wasn't obvious. It wasn't explicit, but it still counts.
Yeah, and that's an important concept, because in these, as you listen to TikTok and things, you'll hear people screaming and hollering, "Oh, it's fraud! They've done this to me. They've done that to me." And those people don't recognize that they volunteered into it. They have, but they don't realize that they have. And so they get angry at the system rather than trying to understand how they participated with the system unknowingly.
And to your point there, Ken, with people just shouting things out, I think that's where we have discussed in the past also that as we're running into this information, we need to pause before we allow it to trigger us and really try to understand, because we're going to find ourselves exactly there where we have consented to a lot of this. We have agreed to it. And it's not fraud. It's just the fact that we have voluntarily stepped into it. Most of it is hidden in plain sight, and it's really our responsibility to really try to figure this information out before shouting things out. And I think a lot of the people that are shouting things out is because they did hear it from another TikTok, but they didn't really take the time to really look into it before they reposted or started talking about it without knowing. So I think it's definitely important that we take the time to understand this information. But it is so true. There's so much out there. There's a lot of noise on all the social media pages. I do want to point out in regards to the the fact that they make it complex for a reason, and how the system is, it's sophisticated mechanisms of control. I go back to basics of how difficult, we're talking about legal and monetary, how difficult money, it is for us to understand money, right? And with the fact that they actually make it a little bit more challenging for us, makes it even worse for us, right? Just the basics of money. 99% of us, maybe, a little lower, let's say 90% of us don't understand how to manage money or how to understand money. And the fact that they add that piece of making it a little more complex or challenging or sophisticated for us, it does become very difficult for a lot of us. And we pretty much just say, I'm just going with this, or they don't really want to put the time into really knowing or understanding what it is. What I'm saying is they do it purposely for us to give up, for us to not want to put the time into it. And this goes for the legal side, this goes for the money side. And in general, when it comes to signing up for something, whether it is the driver's license, whether it is a subscription, we give up too easily because it is a little challenging, a little complex. So it is important for us to really, put the time into it, that it's going to be well worth it at the end to make sure that you're not handcuffing yourself to things that you don't even know is behind that subscription or that contract.
And the internet has made all this a lot easier and harder at the same time, because information is accessible now that just wasn't accessible before. So it was really hard to learn this type of information even 30 years ago, even 20 years ago. It's quite available now, but that means both good information and bad information is available. So now you can search and find, but you have to really use discretion in order to sort out what's true and what's not.
That's so true. And in the in the pre-internet days, it like you would go get, say, a license, and it would, they couldn't hand you a 92-page contract. They had to keep it simple. Now it's, okay, there may be a one-pager there, but it will say, for further information, go to this website. And it's incumbent upon you to go check that out and read it before you sign the bottom line and contract. But who of us does this? Because it's in the small print, and it's not like we have a computer to research there, or we have our phones, but we don't. It looks simple, but it rarely is, like you're saying.
I think a lot of where all of us are making mistakes on is the fact that we love and appreciate the convenience and how easy they're making it for us to get into those contracts. I really feel that convenience is going to cost us a lot, and I think that is, like, within seconds you can get things, and that's crazy. I mean, even when you order tangible, you can get it next day. You can get it same day, right? It's that convenience is really going to cost us, because they make it easier and easier by the day.
Right. And most times these contracts is like, okay, you want this, you go into a bank, you go into the license bureau, and what they do is they hand you a pad, a little, iPad thingy, and say, okay, all you have to do is sign here. No one's really handing you much of anything, but you asked for it. But there's the contract. So I like this slide, is that it's going into the birth certificate, registering for school, opening a bank account. These are complex contracts. And it says lifelong chain of obligations. Yeah.
That bind individuals to the system.
Yeah, so that means that when we sign up for school, we're not really just signing up for school, really. Right? There's a lot more to it.
The legal system underlying these things is equally complex. It's designed that way to be impenetrable to the average person, filled with jargon and legalese that obscure its true nature. So even if you did try to read these contracts, the likelihood of you having a clue what you just read is about zero.
Yeah. And I like that it mentions it separates the terms jargon and legalese. jargon can be a lot of slang terms or often used terms. But I had learned when I actually looked up legalese, it's actually the professional language that is used on contracts. It's a thing. It's not just a set of slang, but it's very hard to understand.
Is it like a secret language, maybe? Like a new language
like
we have to learn?
It's a dialect.
It feels like it. It's its own thing. You look at what terms mean in legalese are very different than our common legal language. I mean, common conversational language. They have different, legalese contains its own definitions. And that's why in so many cases when we're writing contracts or we write trust, we've gone a little bit deeper into those conversations between us, that we have to have a section that defines the terms that we're using within those documents, because it will be taken for granted that it's legalese by the other party, or it can be. And we have to be careful, just like I'm saying on their end, they are defining with legalese their own terms, but it is its own language.
Well, I'm sure this is why we regular people give up reading through it halfway.
Well, and even, I mean, to your point there about the definitions, even if you did read it, you would be interpreting it from the words, your understanding of the words, right? So you would have to have a law dictionary or the defined terms from the contract as to what they mean when they say that word in that contract. And you would have to look up each of those words because you couldn't trust your own understanding of the meaning of the word, because that doesn't have that same meaning in that contract.
So I wonder if these contracts are written out, right, only for lawyers to really understand them. So if they weren't so expensive, I'm sure all of us would be willing to hire them for them to read them for us, right? But it just seems that way, that either you have to have a degree or a law degree to understand them, or they're probably purposely written only for lawyers to understand them and not the average person. That's
the usual case in business, as you know. You before you sign a contract, you hand it to your lawyer and you have them read it, because as smart as you may be, you can't read that thing appropriately unless you read it through legalese.
In their language, and it's a big deal that what we take for synonyms are not synonyms. Things like a baby versus a child. Child is a legal term. Man or woman versus an individual. It's like that's the same thing. Oh no. And it is exhausting, but it is eye-opening at the same time.
There is one thing I'm sure we all have captured, is that if there is fine print on a piece of paper, pay attention to it. Pay attention to it. Read it. But then again, we have to decode it. Like, do we really understand it? It's so confusing.
It's right? Even more obvious when it's audible, right? The audible fine print's a lot of fun. When you listen to an advertisement on TV, like a lawyer advertising.
Oh yeah.
And then they go at the end, and they actually have to have speeds. Legally you're allowed to only go at a particular speed, but you can't even understand the words that they're saying, right? And anytime I hear one of those, I just immediately go, wouldn't deal with that person, because if they're having to go through all those kinds of explanations at the end, it's very similar to the drug advertisements that have to tell you that this thing will kill you and everything else.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, use of this product may kill you. And that's the fast part.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to me that people listen to these ads and hear all that stuff at the end and then go buy the thing.
Still get it. And they still get it. Yes.
It's nuts.
Yeah. They cover themselves because they do it at a specific speed, but they also have it in print, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, well, if you didn't catch it on the audio, you caught it on the visual.
Yeah. See, we told you.
But yeah.
So you made the decision. We made you aware of it, but you weren't really aware of it.
Yeah, but it is true. I mean, we still we still move forward and go buy it, even though that advertisement is there. It's crazy. It's crazy the actions we take.
It is, and it is human nature to say want immediate relief, immediate satisfaction, even though, say, with a pain relief medication, that there'll be an insert in there that's 3 pages of the tiniest print you can imagine, saying what the side effects may be, but it will relieve your pain. But, we don't look into long-term use or even immediate side effects. It is human nature to want that relief, want that benefit. And now that we become aware, we have to start questioning the trade-offs.
So filled with jargon and legalese that, I'm going to add another word, that purposefully obscures its true nature.
Fair enough. Yeah.
This complexity serves to disempower individuals, making it difficult for them to understand, let alone challenge the terms of their own bondage.
I think it comes to us making choices at really anything, the littlest things, subscriptions, attending an event, buying a medication. It's really putting the time into making a decision of, do we really want it, need it, or can I just say no and move on? Or is it that I really want it and I will do whatever it takes just to get the benefit, or to attend the event, or to get the relief right off of a medication? So it is complex for us individuals to make those choices, but we need to now really put thought into, do we want empowerment, or do we want to be disempowered, right, by those difficult decisions we have to make, or choices that we have to make? And it's for everything that we do day to day.
I think when people are looking at doing something or buying something, they look at the obvious thing, which is how many bills am I going to have to pay for this? What is the cost of this? But that's only one aspect of the cost of this in reality. It's how most people measure. They look and they say, I want this, and this is how much it costs. But no awareness of anything else that might be involved in that transaction.
And an example would be, to your point there, Ken, is instant gratification, right? Simple as buying a pair of shoes today, and your face value is $100 for them, and you make the decision that instead of paying $100 for them today, you charge it. You use a credit card, and now you're going to pay $300, $400, $500, because you're allowing yourself to make that decision at the moment, and that instant gratification of having them, but then that long-term effect of how painful it's going to be, that you're no longer going to be paying the $100 for it. It's the choices we make. And a lot of the times we are very well aware of it, and we still do it.
Yeah. And it's amazing how convenient they've made paying, right? I am flabbergasted at my office how few people even carry any cash with them. Everything is electronic.
And if they don't have a credit card, it's their phone, right? Their Apple Pay, right?
Yep.
Even easier.
Mm-hmm.
And the movement now is to get rid of all physical forms of payment. And it says just overtly, we are going towards this. But how are you paying? Are you paying on credit? Are you paying on a direct debit? I mean, it's all sneaky to have you long-term contracting somehow with what we believe is money. Because I look at that, the terms of the bondage, We all are aware of we all know the term binding contract. Binding and bondage, they come from the same word. Bondage is to be bound. I mean, it is to bind is to be bonded or bound. Yeah.
And that's what they want from us, right? They want us long-term in bondage. And that's why that convenience is costing us more than what we know.
And they're trying to make it even easier. In Latin America, a lot of places, when you charge something, even a meal, right, you have the option on that as to how many payments you want to make on that.
Mm.
And now
your meal.
Yes. And now I've seen that starting here in the States too. I used to just laugh about it when I was in Latin America. I was like, why would anybody do that? And now I've seen that happening here.
Isn't that the same also with like cash check cashing places as well? Like you're working hard for your money, but then you go get an advance midweek, and then by the time you get your check, that's a part of bondage as well in a way, right? Because you're given a big portion of your earnings just for a 2-day early pay or advance.
Yeah, and I've personally used PayPal because in certain areas that's what's needed, but is with everything there's pay in 4 easy payments, and there's at the time there you don't quote unquote pay extra for splitting it up in 4 parts. There's no extra charge. Now what's hidden there is if you miss one payment, that's what's being counted on, and that has to do with a lot of things that you're going and say buy a computer, over 4 years. You don't see the extra until something goes wrong. And then it's a heavy form of bondage. But we contracted. And the other piece of contracting is that in many cases we don't. If we want certain things, we don't necessarily have to give it up. But do we question is their form of contracting the only way to achieve that result? Pathway, is it the only way to be, to have your motor vehicle and be able to, travel from one place to another? Is there only way to, do we have to, I'm not saying conform, but do we have to follow the pathway that we are told is mandatory? I think we'll discuss along the way that there are other ways to achieve what we would like to achieve.
And I think, Ken, you were mentioning that is the way the adhesion contracts work. Can you tell us a little bit about, just briefly, how we are able to possibly negotiate or renegotiate a contract we've entered or a terms and condition we accepted after we've accepted it?
You just said a real key word, and that is renegotiate. I think most people had probably never heard the word renegotiate until Trump started talking. And he uses that word all the time, right? I mean, people get angry with him and stuff because he renegotiates everything. And in business, that's the reality. Things are renegotiable, but most people don't recognize that. They just sign a contract and they think they're stuck with that obligation the way it is. But an adhesion contract, that's the word you used, is a unilateral type contract where one side has pretty much control over it, and then the other side either signs it or they don't. So in most of those cases, there's something you want, and this other person has it available, and they tell you the terms by which you can purchase it. So you feel like you're stuck with, I either do this or I don't get the service that I want or the product that I want or whatever. And in reality, that can be renegotiated most of the time by going ahead and doing it and then following up to renegotiate. There are methodologies to do that we'll talk about in the future. But it's really fairly standard in business to renegotiate contracts, especially when circumstances change and so forth. It's pretty common.
And that is the piece we're probably missing, is that we are not aware that we're able to do that.
Yeah, most people are not in business. They don't, they just work a W-2 job or something, and they've never really had that experience of renegotiating a contract.
And I think it's important that, an example would be of like when we have to make some choices at certain, on certain decisions that we want to see happen. Example would be travel or attending an event. Renegotiating can even be in scenarios like that as well. And what I'm referring to, example, an event, there are times when you are asked to do specific things to be able to enter the venue. And I believe that it's, as long as you learn how to approach the situation, there is a way for them not to pat you down or have to go through your things. But it's definitely important to know how to manage it, right? Because that's a big part of it.
Yeah. It's not from being angry or screaming at them or anything like that. That usually doesn't work very well. There's a term in Italy. It's called furbo, and a person that's furbo, it's looked at as a positive thing in Italy, although it's kind of it's a slang term. But it's like if someone can be cunning and get by with things, like get in front of other people in the line or those kinds of things, and not make everybody all around them angry for having done it, then that person is looked at as a cunning, furbo person.
I take it it's a positive.
It is
compliment to that person.
It really is. It's saying he got by with it.
Yeah.
I had a guy in school with me that he was so funny. He just was hilarious, and he could get by with anything. He did crazy things and never got in trouble because he could do it in a way that nobody could yell at him.
He had charisma in him.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, when you're doing renegotiations or trying to do something that's different from how the plan is that everybody does, you have to kind of think it through. I mean, there are ways to go about it, and it takes a little more thinking and so forth. But one thing you don't want to do is go make everybody angry at you and yell at them. And that's one of the things that I see a lot on the internet. Like you see all the time, people trying to not get a ticket from a police officer, and yelling at the police officer is probably not a very effective way of doing that, nor a very bright way of doing it.
I think it's if you're aware of a specific process in a peaceful way, calm way, you can get by renegotiating right then and there. An example would be, say at the airport. And I think you've told me a story, Ken, that you may want to share here after I go over mine. But at the airport, I became aware that they had begun collecting biometrics, and it's actually very visible, right? Hidden in plain sight. And we can actually read through it, read the big words on the signs that you have the ability to opt out of biometrics. And of course, as we become aware, I made my children aware, I made my husband aware, and so forth. And I think it's important that when we do become aware of something, that we do help others understand as well. And at this moment, we still have the ability to opt out from the biometrics. And I think it's so important that the longer we have that ability to opt out, the longer we can go forward without having to do it, with having the ability to opt out. It's when we don't read, and it's when we don't share, and it's when we go with the flow that makes it a problem for all of us. Because, again, we can prolong it as long as we're aware that it's taking place. And one of the things I did find, and I think, Eliza, you shared a video that they were using trickery on people when it came to biometrics, where they were saying, I'm sorry, once I've scanned your DL or your passport, too late. You can no longer opt out. So again, I think it's so important, those basic steps that they have us doing, that if one of us are aware, that we definitely, that we understand it, but that we definitely start discussing it with other people, because we have the power to prolong it and possibly even stop it completely if we do share that information as quick as we can. But I think it's really important because those are choices.
The crazy part, though, is that I think it's an unusual person like us that would even question the biometrics. Now, you used a very interesting term. You said collecting your biometrics. And that's exactly it. Your biometrics are your personal property. And they're taking your personal property. We've kind of lost sight of what property is. And,
are they taking it, or are we giving it?
Well, exactly. We're allowing them to take it. Let's put it that way. But they make it very, very difficult for you to recognize it, right? So they'll have a sign up there saying, this information is not kept. This photo is taken and then deleted, right? Now, I don't know about you, but pretty much everything the government says, I assume, is not true. So how am I going to believe that, right? But my point is that most people, they don't see that as an issue at all. They just see it as, I can get through the line faster by doing this.
Exactly. They've given
Sorry, go ahead, Eliza.
Go ahead. No, we're getting to implied consent. If you don't say no, they will assume, and legally, they can illegally assume that you consented because you didn't say no, and that's implied consent. And that's a big deal in all of these contracts we're discussing from birth going forward. So go ahead, Rainy Estela. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was just going to say it's how we've been, manipulated to think that we don't have the ability to say, no, I don't want, we've been, what is the word?
I call it indoctrination. We've been indoctrinated. Basically. Trained.
Yeah. Trained. Yeah. We've been trained since, to not, that's the way it is. Okay, that's what they're saying. That's the way we're going to do it. So that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't want to be confrontational, but they don't know the damage that it's causing in the long run.
Yeah. I think they're just looking at the convenience without any recognition of the cost. And I think a lot of people will even hear us talk and go, well, why wouldn't you want to give your biometrics?
Yeah, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? But it is interlinked to just about anything. But, we talk about, you'll often hear us and others talk about implied versus express contracts. Implied consent, if we don't say no, versus express consent is when we do or don't say no. So if we don't express it, it will be implied. And those are two very big words probably to get a handle on.
And our whole society has moved gently over the years, as they always do, kind of progress you slowly into not even really recognizing personal property for the most part. Then that's part of this whole subscription thing too, right? You used to actually buy even a computer program. You would buy it and it was yours for a period, even though you're really just licensing it. At least you paid for it. You could use it. Right now, you got to pay every month for it because they want to keep that rolling, and then they got more control over it. They can increase the price. They can do all kinds of things. But it just, I think it psychologically participates in helping people to not recognize things as their property.
A thumbprint, an eye scan, a facial scan, etc. That's a great point to bring out, that is property.
I loved having my music and having my, movies, right? Even movies today. You don't own your movies. You're subscribed to them.
Rent them.
Yeah.
But it's so convenient, right? We used to have to carry records around and then tapes and then VCRs and all that stuff, the physical thing. It's really convenient not to have to do that.
That's why I mentioned. Convenience is
convenience.
It's a cost that we don't even know how much it's going to hurt us.
It's huge metadata. Cloud storage. Everyone who has opted to have cloud storage versus physical storage, that this is all data that we have to be aware of. What exactly are we storing that is not in our possession? But yeah, we could go on with this for a long time.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So, anything else that you guys can think of we need to hit today?
I just want to say we need to be real. I mean, this is a legal mess and it is very confusing. And I thank you both because you guys do help me as I'm going through this a ton. And I appreciate you guys.
Same here.
Likewise.
Yeah, it's an awareness thing. That's the hugest part of it, is just kind of becoming aware and then make your own decisions. But you can't really make good decisions if you don't know what's going on. And that's not to say that everybody would make the same decision, but everybody should know so that they can come to their own decision on these matters.
And as they know that they share it.
Mm-hmm.
As they know they share it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So that was a good conversation.
Wonderful. It was great. Thank you.
Loved it.
Thank you both.
Loved it, guys.
All right.
Loved it, guys. Thank you so much for helping me through the conversation as well.
And likewise.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's always fun with you guys. So we'll be back for episode 9.
Right.
Awesome.
See you then. Much
Bye-bye.
love.
See you soon, guys. Love you guys.
The views expressed in this Liberty Ark podcast are for informational and educational purposes only. They do not constitute legal or tax advice, and they may not reflect the official positions of anyone at all, really. We want to express our appreciation to the authors of the unpublished manuscript titled The Great International Heist, on which the Liberty Ark podcast is based. Rebecca and Jonathan Rodrigues, the authors, provide courses that go into much greater depth and are available at libertyarkpodcast.com/white rabbit.